we're going to dive right into our fourth panel of the day, which is going to be on the commercialization of African football. The discussion will unpack the commercial growth of African football, looking at club sponsorship, ticketing, as well as utilizing of digital platforms. And it will also explore best practices for professionalizing football administration and how leagues and federations can unlock greater commercial value across the ecosystem. But before I invite even our panelists, can I get a wave? Are we together? Are we all following the same conversation? Are we muraho? Muraho neza? Turi tayari? Tuko tayari? Tayari, okay. So guys, with a lot of energy, please help me invite our panelist and moderator for this session. Start with Engineer Hassi Ali Said, Chairman of the African Club Association. Let's welcome Hassi to the stage. You're welcome. We have Jovin Jakins Matovu, the Chief Commercial Officer, Uganda Premier League. Let's also give him a warm round of applause. And our final panelist, Shogo Shodunke, the CEO of Freestyle Sports. There he is. You're welcome. You're welcome. Let's give him a round of applause as he comes. And our moderator for this session is none other than the amazing Nozi Busiso, Sibia, TV and multimedia journalist with SABC Sports. You're welcome, Nozi. Let's escort her with a warm round of applause, yeah? Until she takes a seat, at least. We can do that. We can do that. Nozi, over to you.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Yes, you can. Thank you so much to my colleague Fiona, who's doing an amazing job today. Can we please give her a round of applause? Now, since we've had lunch, who's here for food? Who's here for food? In South Africa, we usually go to events for food. Who's here for food? Now our session is going to be focusing on the commercialization of football clubs as well as football leagues here in South Africa. And my panel here is actually going to take you through the stages of commercialization as well as a fan engagement. And I am going to start with Mr. Hesse had said he was going to sit this side. I'm going to start with Mr. Hesse, who I'm going to ask to introduce himself and tell our audience here what he does.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Engineer Hesse Said. I'm the president of Young Africans Sports Club based in Tanzania, and I'm also the chairman of African Club Association, which is based in Morocco.
Mr. Hesse, can you please explain to people a bit what the African Club Association does?
African Club Association is it's a new initiative that was established by CAF under President Motsepe, and the reason being was to have the voice of clubs in Africa. So this establishment was basically a platform, an umbrella where all the clubs will be coming together, sit together, understand their challenges, and also find solutions. So it was established under the same platform of CAF, and the chairman of African Club Association is also a board member of CAF, so I sit at the CAF Executive Committee just to have a voice of the clubs in the continent.
Thank you so much. And now, right next to me is Mr. Jovin from the Uganda Football Association, who is going to tell us what they do in the commercialization department in the league.
Good afternoon. My name is Jovin Jenkins Matovu. I'm from the prestigious Uganda Premier League. The Uganda Premier League is the top football competition in Uganda, definitely. It is good that we're discussing commercialization now, because together with our Tanzanian neighbors, we've just hosted Chan recently, and it having been a competition of local talent, it's helped us to see clearly how much strength we have as countries, but also the strength in local talent and commercialization. I want to use a case of Chan because when we're looking at that Pamoja project locally, usually we've been reaching out to brands to come on board, as sponsors, asking them for 100,000, and they were saying, that's a lot of money, that's a very big budget. So when Chan began, Uganda had, of course, as the host, had some games, and the brands and executives saw our national stadium, it's called Nambole, full to capacity. Watch parties were full. So some of these executives reached out to CAF. How can we be part of that Chan tournament? And they were told, you need a minimum of 500,000 US dollars. So they all came back to the league saying, oh, you guys have been fair. I think we should already be in the sport. So I think that commercialization, in as far as the league is concerned right now, is growing because brands have got to appreciate it. I mean, football is something which everybody knows. It is not something which people don't know about, or local football. They do appreciate and know it. But the idea of being sure that part of my budget, of the 100% of maybe my 2 billion, I'm going to give you the 20% as sport. And in what capacity? Am I giving it to you as a promotion basis? Am I giving it to you as a long-term basis? So positioning ourselves as league custodians, of course, now involves having our clubs know the strength in branding, know the strength, as the previous panel was discussing, of ROI on investment of all the brands. So I think commercialization is a key thing for us. And I think even as the continent, really. So, but this is something which I think has to be taken down to the roots. When we speak about talent development and nurturing and grassroots development, the same should be for commercialization. People need to understand that from down, from the smallest club, the smallest league entity, I think should appreciate commercialization.
Thank you so much, and I totally agree with you because I feel that it is a responsibility of a league in a country, especially a prestigious one, to teach the clubs on how to get brand sponsorships and things like that for commercialization. And now I'm going to move to Mr. Shoho, who actually went to university in South Africa. I'm going to move to him from Freestyle Sports, who is going to explain to you what he does.
Oh, thank you. Good afternoon to you all. My name is Shodunke. I'm the CEO of Freestyle Sports Limited. I'm also the brain behind Amateur and Professional African Development Program, where we hasten the transition of grassroots players to become professional, and also a platform to professionalize and standardize the operation of sports stakeholders, where we train coaches, administrators, and also organize seminars for players on how to play plan, because we're trying to strike a kind of balance to create a common sense in Africa and build a sustainable development framework for our sport and football to grow. Because it is not too good to have an husband that is well educated, enlightened, and the wife is below. It will be difficult for them to be on the same page. The southern part of Africa, the eastern part of Africa are at the top. The West Africa is still below. We're trying to see how we can encourage a lot of people to come into football and see how we can increase the knowledge of the game. Majority in Africa, in some part of Africa, we are still doing physical scouting. And in developed countries, they do more of scientific scouting. And all these things, we're trying to see how we can change the narratives and see how we can build our own system and build a football ecosystem to be able to attract a lot of sponsors, partnership, and also have a global interest and competitiveness with the top clubs and leagues in the world.
Thank you so much. Talking about commercialization, Mr. Hesse, I wanted to know, everyone here knows Young Africans. How did you build that brand? Actually, how did you rebuild? Because there was a time where I think there was a bit of struggle for sponsorship. How did you rebuild? What strategies were used?
Thank you very much. I'll take you through the history of Young Africans. It's the oldest football club in our country, established in 1935. This year, around February 11th, we were celebrating our 90 years of age. And it's the most successful football club in terms of trophies in our country. But I'll give you a short history from 2016. 2015, we were having a chairman of our club, and at the same time, he was the sponsor. He was doing everything for the club in terms of leadership, in terms of financial support and all this stuff. And 2016, he had his issues, personal issues, and he had to drop the club. From there onwards, we started facing difficulties, including paying salaries, running the club, signing good players, keeping them at the camps and all this stuff. And we managed to lose all the players at that time. Until 2020, when we sat and say, this is over, we need to transform our club to a better way of operation. Instead of depending on an individual, a single person, or a short, a small group of people to run the club, we need to have a way where we can run this club in a better way, since we're having the biggest fan base in the country. So the success behind Young Africans started in 2020 when we established this committee, and that committee was given a task to do transformation. So what is transformation now? Transformation was a project that was changing the structure of our organization and the club style of operation, which was the old one, to a new style of operation. So we were looking for consultants, and we managed to get La Liga from Spain, and they were consulting us on how these football clubs are run professionally and in a modern way. So from there, we managed to learn 3 aspects, and those are the change and the transformation heart of our club. Number 1 was the club ownership. How is the club owned? Initially, our club was 100% members, but we all know these public football clubs, they are well connected to the community, but there's no way you can get the best out of them in terms of financial and investment and financial controls. So we learned that there's an advantage and disadvantage of having an association, which the advantage is the emotional connection. But the disadvantage is the financial control and room of investment. That was number 1. When we learn about the private football club, we get to understand that on the private football club part, there's a very strong way of commercializing the club. There's a strong way of financial controls, and there's a room of investment. So Young Africans decided to choose a mixed model where private and public were coming together to form the 100% of our club. And the distribution was 49 for the investors and maintained 51% for the members. So that was one part of a transformation. The second part was the mode of operation. If you are bringing investors or private sponsors and public people together, what will be the mode of operation to make sure that everyone gets the best out of the engagement? So we learned that we need to have 3 pillars, which is Young African Sports Club with all the processes from the AGM to ExCom to the General Secretary and the operation team. And we said, now let's add 2 more pillars, which is the investors on the far end, and create a vehicle, which is a company between, where it will take the part of Young Africans as a football club and the investors coming together to make a decision. So that was the mode of operation of our club that we came up with. And number 3 was the fan engagement process. We have supporters across the country. How can we get the best out of them in terms of being part of the club, buying the products of the club, including merchandise, tickets, and all this stuff, being part of the club by paying the membership fees, and allow them to add financial value to our club? So we learned that process, and I can tell you now, Young Africans is the most highly registered members of the club across sub-Saharan Africa. We have over and above 90,000 members that are paying their membership fees now. Our last year's collection was almost $500,000 from the members. And in that regard, they're also purchasing a lot of our products. They also come to the stadiums, and they do a lot of programs with the team, including application, and they pay for application, and they buy products for the club. So these are the 3 elements that build our transformation, and that is a key of transforming our club. And this is what you see now. Young Africans is not doing good only outside the pitch, but have also managed to create a strong management team. And I can tell you now, for the past 4 years, Young Africans has won all the trophies in the country in 4 years' time. We won the league 4 years in a row. We won the FA Cup 4 years in a row. We won the Charity Cup 3 years out of 4. And we're playing on 16th this month, and hope everyone will pray for us to win the 5th one. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and you are really doing an amazing job there because even in South Africa, we are scared of young Africans. We support you when you competing with other teams, but not with South African teams. Now, Mr. Giovanni, I actually wanted to ask when you see what a team like Young Africans is doing, and they decided to go out there and actually have a strategy of how they can commercialize and how they can have a proper strategy that works for the club. What is the responsibility of a league for the teams in that particular country?
Okay, so the first responsibility of the league, I think, one, the team or the league in as an entity are the custodians of the entire competition. So what is involved in the competition? There is off pitch and on pitch, right? Now, that what I would call a route to map, that entire route to map, the responsibility of it is the league. So at what touch point do the clubs come in? How good have you built them in as far as capacity is concerned? If it is about the media, how is your relationship with the media? How are you handling media at league level? Because before you go to the club level, you must ensure that the entire RTM is clean enough so that when you are telling a club person that you should do more media engagements, the media is welcoming and ready to receive them, right? So after mapping that entire value chain of commercialization, funds, media, regulators, other stakeholders, public, and all that, then you go ahead and begin engaging club per club at club level. You do not take a framework which has worked, for example, for Young Africans and propose it to a fully institutional club. Like we used to have a club in Uganda which was called the State House. It was for the president's club. So you don't take that framework from a partially owned club and place it onto an institutional club. The same way we wouldn't take the institutional framework and put it onto the publicly or privately owned club. So when you go doing one-on-ones with these clubs, you're going to understand what exactly are they trying to achieve, what is the mission behind the institution of the club and the activities. Then you will push them to the other pipeline, which you have cleaned, right? The media, the funds, the public, the brands and the sponsors. Because when something happens in the league, interestingly, usually the league, if something is wrong in the league, it is deterring all engagements from the other clubs. For example, if something happens, let's say if a league is known to be violent, people do not know a club for being violent. They know a league for being violent. People do not know a club for not bringing returns. They know a league. Like the whole umbrella is the league. So you have to make this very clear at club level that even if the 15 are doing well, you, the 16th, should also be doing the same because the damage that you are going to cause is going to split onto the entire brand of the league.
No, thank you so much for that. And I actually want to connect your question to Mr. Shoho because if we're going to talk about the damage, and as freestyle sports, he was talking about athletes and soccer players specifically branding themselves and representing themselves as brand. What role do you play in making sure that for soccer players, for example, you find that there's a certain post on Twitter or Instagram where you're like, no brand is going to partner with this person because of what they say on social media. What is your responsibility then in making sure that they brand themselves properly so that they're able to get the money from brands?
Thank you. I think we have to do factual analysis of our problems before we start going to commercialization and also trying to attract sponsorship. You know, majority of our leagues, if, sorry to say this, some of them things are not done properly, and we have to look at this objectively. We have to have positive mindset and have the same common sense to be able to achieve greatness together. It's not about East Africa, South Africa, North Africa developing, and other part of Africa still underdeveloped. We have to have a sustainable development framework that we can all use that will benefit all the leagues and also all the countries so that it will be easy for us to attract sponsorship. Majority, I must be honest with you, some clubs, they don't even have a platform to purchase their club jersey. Some leagues doesn't have a proper license system that is working. And that is why transfer market came to Africa purposely because of that. 2 years ago, they've been having issues with market value of players and also age falsification and so many things. They came down to have a regional office in Africa to see how they can, from charity begins at home. I've seen what Young Africans is doing. I've seen what Mamelodi have done. I can go there and speak with them. They have a forum where they can sit and share ideas and brainstorm. What are the models you're using? In J League in Japan, they have a model that is majority of the clubs are community-based. We have in the German Bundesliga, one of the most profitable leagues so far, and they have a very strong licensing system. Majority of our players, after the season, they just go home. No training, no workshop, no education, no enlightenment. And all these things are a problem. The leagues are just interested in what is coming into their pocket, not interested in building a sustainable system. Before you can think of commercialization, you have to put your house in order. One, look at what happened, the transformation that happened in Senegal. It took them about a few years to professionalize their league, and look at what is happening. An average player from the Senegalese, look at Gambia as well. Gambia is transferring players abroad because things are done properly. I must be honest with you, a lot of Nigerian players are going to Tanzania, coming to Rwanda. Why are we leaving our country? The concept is we have to sit down and do factor analysis of our problem and see how we can attract sponsorship. Now, do you think a company will come to you or just come to you and start asking for certain things? You have to be accountable, you have to be transparent, you have to be honest. Some clubs don't have annual financial reports. They keep it to themselves. Why can't you, after every season, why can't you post it on the internet for people to have access to it? I want to know how much you're spending every season before I can come to you and be part of a project. But we are keeping all this because we are benefiting from it. And another thing is most of the clubs, administrators and managers are political appointees. Majority of them are not properly trained. We have FIFA University in Cairo. The Arabic-speaking FIFA University is in Cairo. We have the French-speaking one at Antidiop University in Senegal. We have the English-speaking one at Nelson Mandela University. And they are training students every year. About 90 students are graduating from these three schools every year. And it's difficult, Sekafa, inside of, they're trying on the part, but it's difficult for these people to be absorbed, to come and help them to develop the league. They see competent hands as competitors. It is good to compete, but we need to come together and complement ourselves and see how we can have a framework that can help the system. I can't blame the player that is posting bad things on the internet because he doesn't even understand the concept of sponsorship and the integrity and the identity of the league. All these things, we have to take them to the class and open their minds to opportunities and the challenges and all these things. A few months ago, all the MPFA players, Nigerian Premier League players, coaches, we brought them together. We organized a workshop for them. See, football is beyond what we're doing. We have to go extra mile. We have to go to Europe and go and see their framework. Bring in Y Scout, bring in Highball, bring these people to help us to improve our knowledge about the game. And these are the kind of things that will attract a lot of sponsorship and opportunities. And for the players as well, we need to build we know our league is cumbersome, the league. We need to create a flexible curriculum for them to go to school. Some of them are gifted. You know, when you have being a captain of the club, there's certain qualities you see in a captain. Even in the club, you see some players, they have the marketing skills. Try and take your time and identify a few of them, enroll them, vocational training. There's a school in Morocco called ESSEC Business School. I think it's one of the oldest business schools in Africa. They were taking social sport entrepreneurs, they were training them for free in partnership with Tibu Africa. These are the kind of things we can do off-season for our players to educate them, to enlighten them so that they can know how things are done properly and how we can have a system that is working.
Actually, I was about to ask you a follow-up question, but you answered it. But I think you can give me a more loaded answer because you're very passionate about it. As someone who travels and knows what's happening in the sports world globally, what global models can almost sort out the solutions for countries that are still struggling to commercialize their leagues?
I must be honest with you. I think we have different traditions and culture. And I think in Africa, we have a lot of similarities. And I think we can learn from each other. Look at what is happening. The FRMF model in Morocco that is working, huge investment in facilities and also coaching and education program. Look at what is happening in Tanzania through the model that Young Africa is using. And also South Africa, look at what is happening. From broadcast deal, they were able to get over 1 billion rands a few years ago. Look at what Halali is also doing. I was at Soccerise. I saw the achievement of Al Ali in Egypt. And these are the things we need to start small and grow big. We can start from Africa, borrow from all these models in Africa, and see how we can implement them. You know, there are certain models that are replaceable and also replicable. We can pick from this and see how we can look at German Bundesliga, look at the J League, look at the English Premier League. They have a centralized commercial and also broadcast revenue stream, which they share to clubs. But in Africa, we have indirect commercial streams and so many things. We need to see how we can pick from different leagues and see how we can bring them back to Africa. But we need to start from the system that are already working, like the club like Simba, like Young African, Mamelodi Sundowns, Castle Chief, Al Ahly, Zamalek, Pyramid, and also top teams. Let's see how we can pick from them and start small and see. Look at the stadium at Cote d'Ivoire, Bimpe Stadium. Who is going to be using it after the AFCON? The chance that we have a lot of facilities, we need to bring in competent hands that can help us to add value to the system and promote our football.
No, thank you so much. You really did give me a loaded answer. But you touched on something that I'm actually very curious about. So we talk about commercialization, and it's going really well, Mr. Hesi, for Yanga. But who is accountable for everything that goes on in the club? Because I'm not going to name any teams, but there is a problem sometimes where people get sponsorship or there's memberships in South Africa, for example, but there's also corruption within the club. So you still struggle with payments for players and for staff because there's that. So who is accountable to make sure that the sponsorship and also all these monies that are coming in do not go to waste?
Yeah, one thing which is, thank you for the question, it's a very important question, and I can tell you, some of the clubs in Africa, they are struggling because of professionalization. We are missing that part. I'll give you an example of some of the ideas in Africa. They think that football club has to be run or managed by ex-footballers, which to me, I don't believe that. When you look at the structure of the club, you're talking about the operational team, you're talking about a CEO. And then from the CEO, you have all the departments. You need to have a marketing department, which is a commercial part, and it's a very vital element. If you ask me, the heart of your club will be a commercial part, marketing and sales. You don't need to have an ex-footballer to run that department. You need a proper person that went to school to do marketing and sales. So that department is off from the footballers. You're talking about legal department, which is a very important element when you're running a football club. Contracts with your players, contracts with your stakeholders. You don't need a footballer to run that department. You're talking about communication and media, which is also a key element in running a football club. Nowadays, communication departments add financial value to the club. From your team, you can create Twitter, which is X now, and they pay you. You can create content for your YouTube, and they can pay you. You can create applications, and you create content, special content for the application. And that application, the members and fans can pay for that. So in the communication and media department, you don't need ex-footballer. You need a proper person who went to school for communication. So if you look at this department, you need a financial department. You don't need someone who played football to run the department. You need a financial director, a person who has CPA kind of, who can be able to produce reports, create approvals, processes, and all the methodologies to run the finance department, create your budget, and control finances. So if you look around the departments, if you put the right people in every department, you will have the best out of your club. The only department that requires footballers, people who have knowledge with football, is going to be they call it football, director of football. Some of them, they call it technical director. So this is a specific area where you need a footballer, a person who has the background. The rest, you need professional to sit on those positions, and they will definitely give you an answer. So when it comes to all these issues about money and financial controls and, I'm professional, it's because we don't believe on professionals being part of the club. We think that football club has to have people that played soccer before. And this is something that we need to change as Africa. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. And that is very true because sometimes you see a press release from a club and you can see that it was a chairman that was angry and typed it out and sent it to an intern and said, please post this on Facebook. And you can see that it's not a professional communications person. But moving you on to you, Mr. Jovin, I'm just thinking, as you work with the league, a prestigious league at that, what are the promising revenue streams that you've seen that actually work here in Africa as well as Uganda? Which ones work?
Thank you. I think most interestingly about the revenue streams and all that, if we are discussing commercialization, we could simply decide to go to a very basic description of what is commercialization. And I would want to assume that commercialization simply comes from the word commerce, right? Which, for me, when I heard Inginia speaking about a professional land marketer, I thought you were describing me. So, if we speak about commercialization and we do agree that it is actually commerce and exchange of value for value, right? If we begin to discuss revenue streams, it does imply that you as a league or as a club must know this is an exchange. If you're speaking commercial, it is an exchange. You shouldn't be on the receiving end only, okay? So you having the platforms, the revenue streams are very many really. We have the comms platforms, streaming platforms, ticketing, merchandising, player transfers. There is a whole list of revenue streams available. But what has to be understood and appreciated to the core, right, is the exchange. Is the exchange. Clubs and leagues need to know that this is an exchange. Commercialization is an exchange. It is not a CSR budget. It is not a political platform, okay? If you're expecting $100,000 from an institution, it is an exchange. In exchange for what? Okay? Why should they give you that money? What are you giving back? We can keep describing commercialization in like branding, for example, having the departments, as Ignia has mentioned. But now, if each of these departments understands that any revenue stream that is going to come and convert into actual money comes through an exchange, so the question becomes, what has the communications person done? For you as the comms person, if we get Sports Biz Africa as our partner, what are you going to give Sports Biz? You as the communications person. You as the HR person, what are you going to give Sports Biz? So the HR will say, I'm going to get top talent. Top talent in PR, top talent in this and this and this and this. For you as the PR person, what are you going to do? I'll make sure for all of our matches, they get the mentions, the visibility and all that. For you as the accountant, what are you going to do? Each one has to be held accountable at each level. And then in the whole of that is when you're going to have merchandise working out. Because you have merchandise like Young Africans, you have over 100,000 jerseys printed out, and then the branding person is misspelling the name of the club. Okay? The procurement person is ordering for poor quality. Okay? But the revenue stream is there, it is merchandise. The digital platform is working, the application is active. Okay? But the value chain doesn't understand. The procurement person doesn't know that this is an exchange. If a fan is buying a kit, what are you giving them in return? They want quality. They want consistency. If a brand is coming on board to give you a lot of money as your partner or sponsor or whatever, what are you giving them in return? So the question should be, if we are running after commercialization, for us as African football administrators or investors and entrepreneurs, in exchange for what? What are you selling? Okay, what are you selling? There's a pastor who usually says that if you're not selling, close, remove. You know, supermarkets have that small thing which has open. So if you're not selling, you close. Instead of leaving it open, somebody comes in to buy, and maybe you're rude. Maybe you don't have stock, you know. So I think that value chain has to be cleared very well from club level to league level. Then it also goes to the players. Then that's when it goes to also the funds. For example, for Young Africans, where the funds also have a stake in the club, all those stakeholders have to know that this is an exchange. The footballer has to know this is an exchange. You have to perform well. These funds have traveled. For example, they've traveled from South Africa to come to Uganda. Recently, Uganda beat Bafana 3-0. People had traveled all that way. And so these people have to know that these funds have traveled, but in exchange for what? For your performance. So in exchange for what? For the experience. The word exchange has to keep rhyming. And if there is anything you're going to remember about me today, remember the exchange. There has to be an exchange for anything to evolve in commercialization of African football.
No, thank you so much. And that is a very important point, because sometimes I also do meet athletes and they say, can you please try to build a relationship for me with Adidas? And I'm like, what are they going to get back? And they say, I scored 20 goals. I'm like, yes, but what are they getting back? And they said, no, I only have 200 followers on Instagram. I'm like, then you're not giving them anything back. So exchange is very, very important. I think it'll be selfish of me not to give our audience a chance to ask questions, because this has been a very, very informative panel, and I think everyone is excited about it.
You don't want to exchange any questions?
Hello, everyone. So thank you. I think the discussion is going well, but I have a question, and it is going to Engineer Harris. So we have heard that Yanga is doing well in Tanzania, and you're the chairman of the African clubs all the clubs in Africa, if I can say. So the question is, what are you doing to other clubs to become like Yanga? And what do you see as the challenge to those clubs to be successful? Thank you.
Yes, you can answer.
Thank you so much. I hope you're coming from Rwanda. Very good. A few weeks ago, young Africans were invited by Rayon Sports of Rwanda, and before they sent the entire management team, we invited them to Dar es Salaam before we came to play here. We invited the chairman and some of the board members, communication department, to come to Young Africans to learn what we have as a club. And we had a session of 2 days in Dar es Salaam, taking them through from the structure of our club to the club ownership, to our training facilities, to all the programs around the club, and taking them to the clubhouse as well. The reason behind was we wanted them to learn what is happening with young Africans. And then after that, building that relationship, we came all the way to Rwanda and play on the Rayon Sports Day, which was happened like 2 weeks ago, I can say. And we came to, give them support and, make their day proper. And I think the Amahoro Stadium was vibrant on that day. And just to add value to that relationship, on the first minute, Young Africans scored their own goal. We scored our own goal, correct? You guys were there. So this is so the relationship that we want to do with the rest of African clubs. I've mentioned about Rwanda. We've done with Rayon Sports a few weeks ago, but we've also invited 2 clubs from Kenya, which is Gor Mahia and FC Leopards. They came to Dar es Salaam separately. I know they're rivals. You can't put them together. It's like Rayon and APR. So they came separately. We let them understand what we have as young Africans and give them the knowledge that we as young African paid to La Liga, but we want to split and share this knowledge easily and freely to everyone. We've invited a club from Congo, TP Mazembe, which is the giant of Africa. They've won Champions League, I think 4 times, 5 times if I'm not mistaken. They came to understand what we have achieved in a very short period of time, and we have a session of almost 4 days, from the CEO of the club to the rest of the communication department and the board members. We also went all the way to South Africa, southern part of Africa, where we had township rollers from Botswana. They came to Dar es Salaam to learn. So what we've done is to share the knowledge that we have as young Africans. And short while ago, we were having a discussion with the commercial director of Uganda Premier League. We're also inviting clubs from Uganda to come to Tanzania to learn what we have. You see? And the leadership are there. I met them, and we're planning now how basic we can be able to help them. So in terms of helping our neighbors and the rest of the football clubs, we have open doors for that. And anyone coming from the club level, you can come and learn. The question that we've asked about how the commercializing and the transformation of African clubs will be done, it's 100% based on your needs as a club. And he made it very clear. You have to come, learn what you have, what we have as young Africans, and transform or tailor to your needs. We can share with you what we have, but it might not be 100% that what you need. You can take that portion in terms of what we're doing well and suits your purpose. So this is number one. Number two, through African Club Association, it's going to be the biggest platform of all the clubs in Africa to come together. As of now, we've opened the offices in Morocco, in Rabat, the capital, and we've hired the administrator. Actually, she's in the office as we speak. This is her first week. You will hear from her, you will hear from ACA. We need to start registering all the clubs in Africa. Take your time and go through something called ECA, European Club Association. They have registered 800 clubs now, as of now, in Europe. And all these clubs coming together, they normally sit, understand their challenges, and came up with one voice all the time. And this is the strongest football community ever in the world. Because I can tell you, we football clubs, we are the one producing these players. There's no such a national team that has their own players. They're all coming from us. What are we gaining out of that? We, as the biggest stakeholder of football, are we given the right platform to run football in the continent or in the level of the country? So, but we cannot do that if we don't have one voice. So ACA will come to bring together all the clubs, and that will help the clubs financially. I'll give you an example. With this ACA, with my few meetings or attendance of the EXCOM to the CAF, I've managed to sit with the president of CAF, Dr. Motsepe, and he's coming from the club's background. If you remember, he used to own Mamelodi Sundowns. And he was the one pushing ACA to be established, and he was the one that pushed ACA to have a board member in EXCOM, where we can raise our voice when it comes to clubs. And I can tell you now, for the past 2 years, before 2 years, the clubs that are participating in CAF tournaments, which is CAF Champions League and CAF Confederation, when they were knocked out from the group, from the preliminary rounds, they were getting 0. But as we speak now, through ACA and the good relationship with the presidents of CAF, the clubs are now getting paid 100,000 if they're eliminated from the preliminary rounds. Because initially we used to travel, play the preliminary rounds, and knocked out, and you get nothing until you go to the group stage. But now we have raised our voice and say, President, these clubs are struggling. They travel across the continent to play preliminary rounds. They were knocked out and they get nothing. It's unfair. And now they're getting $100,000 from that. So ACA will come to bring the clubs together, stands for their right, and I humbly asking all the clubs in Africa, we will reach out to you very soon, and we would like you to be part of this ACA. And when we are coming together as one clubs under the roof of ACA, we will have a biggest part to run the football in the continent in terms of lifting the game and commercializing the game and helping one another in our challenges. I'll give you another example which is also very critical. The clubs from Rwanda travel to Kenya or to Tanzania, and they're getting mistreatments. Correct? Who are mistreating them? the fellow chairmen of the clubs. We bring you to the airport. We don't do any facilitation to the airport. You stay there for 6 hours. But if we have ACA as our umbrella, your chairman and my chairman and whose chairman will sit together. When I travel from Tanzania to Rwanda, I make one phone call and I reach the chairman of the club in Rwanda, and he will have to give me the support. But nowadays, it's a challenge. You go to a place, you play Champions League, they give you the bus, there's a hole in the middle of a bus. When you travel, you see, and they take you the longest route. You spend like 7 hours to reach your hotel. And it's unfair. But if we are coming together, we will compete on the pitch and create relationship outside the pitch. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to see my colleagues up there. My name is Cynthia Mumbo. I'm the founder and CEO of Sports Connect Africa, very passionate about the commercial conversation of sports. I'm glad to hear, what we've talked about. I have a simple question for everybody. What role does data play in the commercial conversation? And I think that would really help a lot of the teams and a lot of the federations that are here to get to understand what role does data play. And maybe I can add, considering the population today, considering the digital platforms, considering all these things that we need to look at, what role does data play in helping you make decisions around commercialization?
Thank you. Well, when I mentioned the exchange, I think that is where the discussion of data actually begins from, okay? Because first of all, you must know what you're offering. And you can't know what you're offering if you do not have any data, okay? For example, even from the simplest detail of how many funds do you have, the behavior of your funds, the reactions of the funds, okay? All that, I think data is very paramount in as far as commercialization is concerned, because actually it is part of the product if it is actually isn't, right? It is part of the product that you're selling, because what you are giving this brand or this partner is the data for them to be in position to communicate with your audience, with your numbers. So first of all, you have to know your data, you have to know it very well, but also you must be in position to collect it and commercialize it. So how do you commercialize it? With such engagements, if you're going to speak to Sports Biz Africa, for example, this is a very good example actually. You have Sports Biz Africa, and then there is SCA, African Club Association. Sports Biz Africa wants attendees for this conference, okay? You have information and data about maybe the 600 clubs in Africa, okay? So Sports Biz is looking for somebody who is interested in a conference of this kind. You have that. See? So the exchange begins from, first of all, you knowing what you have, which to me I think is data and is very paramount. So what makes up your product? I think commercialization is like a meal, right? A ready meal when you're serving a meal. It is made up of very many aspects. There is your data, so the question is data about what? Okay? It could be about the market, it could be about customer behavior, it could be about buying patterns, okay? Spend, budget, capacity, all that data is important for you to have, because in any case, you can't simply tell a brand that I have 100,000 funds. They'll ask you to verify it, okay? You have to verify that. And for you to be able to verify that, you must have your data, all what campuses call data. You must have your data to show to these brands and partners and sponsors that what I'm actually speaking about is this. As Sports Biz Africa, we have 2,000 attendees every year, averaging this age. This is the agenda. This is their usage online. This is the time they're active mostly online. This is their budget usually. This is how much they spend when they're in Kigali. All those things. This is how much they travel. All that data is important for you, because I feel like data gives a name to the information you have. You can have a lot of information, but what gives it a name is the data. I hope I've answered that correctly.
And quickly, also one of the essential tools for getting revenue is data. And when it comes to players transfer, it is very important. And in most clubs, they tell you this guy is a free kick specialist. He has scored about 10 goals from free kicks. Ask him for the evidences of those free kicks. You can find them. There was a guy called Juniho. I think he scored about 49 free kicks. It was properly documented. Most of our African players, when you ask them for highlights or videos, majority of their videos are doctored. And if you go online, it's difficult to find few things about them. And that was why we've been having issues when it comes to players transfer. The market value of a player from Nigerian league is about 50,000. Some other African countries, because it's difficult to get information and necessary data about these players on the internet. Even when it comes to accountability in terms of finance, there's certain things, how much you paid on players transfer, buying of players, merchandising, the numbers of jerseys, and even majority of the funds are not properly profiled. They don't have their names, they don't have their addresses, they don't have so many things. All these things are very important for you to attract sponsorship and also partnership. You see, there's need for us to continue to sit down like this and see how we can open people's minds to opportunities in football and also the benefits that we can achieve. Football is the shortest, is the only passport to achieve greatness easily. It's like a shortcut to greatness. And I must be honest with you, I've seen a young boy on the street. Like myself, I wanted to play professional. I couldn't play because of certain factors. My father was a retired referee. He was into amateur boxing. He couldn't achieve much. He went into other businesses. My mom, she was an athlete. And she went into nursing. And when I started, I told her I wanted to play football. I said, you go into sport again. My brother, go back to school. And, I couldn't achieve all these things, but I felt I could be a bridge for others to grow. And I started from the grassroots. All our projects that we started in 2016, we have been able to raise 176 professionals from the grassroots, which we have all their informations. We have had about close to 4,000 players that have participated. And also we're trying to raise breadwinners. We need to start from the grassroots because the guys at the top already, they're almost gone. We need to go back to the roots. Players, we need to tell them, give them financial education, take them vocational trainings, give them entrepreneurship programs so that we can start preparing their minds for the challenges after football. There's an awareness that is coming up very soon. By God's grace, maybe we'll partner with the chairman, Play Safe, Play Plan initiative, so that it will be raised in all our tournaments and all our matches. As a footballer, you have to play plan and also play safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is a very valid question. I would like to add something on top of the data. Okay, with Young Africans, with the fan engagement process, we have created a database management system. I've shared with my colleagues here. They managed to see. So all the 90,000 members registered with our clubs, we have all the information related to them. So we know their full names, their address, their date of birth, gender, the place where they live as of now, their mobile numbers and all this stuff. So we can be able to communicate with them by sending text. We can remind them when it comes to the renewal of their membership fees and all this stuff. So the data is very important. But I'll give you another aspect of the same data that we're missing, and it's a very critical, is having the information of the players that we have. It's a very critical thing. On Thursday, Young Africans is going to sign an agreement with the first AI company to be established in football in Africa. We're talking about 2 or 3 days from now. And that company, when we were doing the groundworks with them, we managed to understand that we as Africans, we don't have information at all about our players, completely. And that is something that will also kill the value of the players. We might have the best players in the continent, but since we don't have the important information that gives them the level and the quality that they deserve, they have been used to be paid a small amount of money. You can get the best player and this player is sold at $50,000. But I can tell you some of the countries in Europe, they have the same player, even less in terms of performance, but that player will be sold at 50,000, 50 million, 25 million, 30 million, easily. It's because these guys, they have information and data that related to the player in terms of age, in terms of strength, in terms of movement, in terms of statistics when he plays, in terms of commitment. So all this information goes to the we call it data altogether, and they can also lift up the value of the player. So we are now building AI with Young Africans, and it's a pilot in my club. And then in the next few months, probably it will take us 3 months to establish the entire thing, because we invited them to do a customized AI for Africa so that we can be able to understand what data do we need to collect and can we reach those data. When you're talking about football, some of us may understand you need to have Catapult, which is the system, a GPS system where it tracks the player's movement on the pitch, how many kilometers, what speed, which area have you covered. Some of the clubs, they don't have. So if you want to measure the performance of the player, you can't do it if you don't have those informations. So we want to understand what will build AI for Africa, and it's specifically that. Unfortunately, or fortunately, AI, it's a tool that will help you. If you put, they said garbage in, garbage out, right? If you put the right information, it will give you the right analysis. So we will want to do that, and it's something which is very important, and I ask the rest of the clubs in Africa, we need to start collecting data because that will help us so much, from the membership and registration and the funds to the level of the players. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. And actually, that was a very important question because currently in South Africa, Peter Shalulile broke the record for most goals scored in the Premier Soccer League. But there is a fight because according to Siyabonga Nomvete, he scored more, but no one has the data. And the people that have it, some are saying it's 131 goals, some are saying it's 129, and Shalulile broke 130, and the PSL is saying no, Shalulile broke the record. So data is important because you can actually get facts of what happened.
Thank you so much, everyone who has come together to see that we make this a very grateful day. My question to the panelist is, see, in today's world of football, we see that successful commercialization relies heavily on digital tools, that is e-commerce, streaming, like live streaming, fan engagement apps, and all that. So my question to you is, what type of partnerships do you see most critical that like between football clubs and broadcasting companies? So, like, to unlock these opportunities, what type of partnerships can we work with so that we expand our exposure of sports around Africa and to the world?
Okay, thank you very much. In Uganda, we have, like in any other country, there are very many authorities and commissions. And I know Rwanda has, and Tanzania and all countries, what you would call the Uganda Communications Commission. I'm not saying the one of Rwanda is called the same name, but the Commission for Communication, which gives you data, okay? If you're going to speak about commercialization, first of all, you must know which numbers you're working around with. And you could, I know many of you will disagree or not believe, but let me tell you something very interesting. Research that you might want to do, okay? You find out, for example, in Rwanda, how many people are using mobile money, right? When you find out that number, also find out how many people are actually using smartphones, right? I have a background in media. I used to work with Nation Media Group. And what I got to learn is that when you're measuring something starting from zero, you see growth because you're starting from zero. Is that clear? If you're measuring starting from 0, you see growth. Okay? So when we're speaking of digital, for example, I'll give you an example of Uganda. If we speak of digital in Uganda, if you look at the graph, it is pointing up because it is beginning from 0. Are we together, ladies and gentlemen? So when you're measuring starting from 0, you will see that digital has hit an all high, right? But if you actually go on the ground, you will find that MTN is telling you it has 6 million subscribers using mobile money. But the data person has 2 million, right? So where is the balance 4 million? The misconception we make as football administrators is to confuse the city with the actual market. The market doesn't stop in the city. It doesn't stop in Kigali or in Kampala. So if you're managing a league or selling a club, there are those fans who are actually on ground, not using smartphones, simply subscribing, paying their membership, okay? And that's the biggest number. If you look at the figures of digitization in Africa, vis-a-vis the actual population, these are facts, actual numbers. If you look at them, you will see that very many stakeholders in sport have run towards digital and left this actual fan. This actual fan who hasn't purely digitized. This actual fan who is in the village and watches the sport. You know, the beauty of football is that football is like breastfeeding. When a child is born, immediately they will start to kick. Even when they're still upside down like this, they start kicking. Such as breastfeeding is. So everyone can play football and everyone can support football. But how many of those are actually digitized? Now, to answer his question, the partners that we speak to all depend on what are you selling and who is buying. Okay? We have banks that are into golf. You can't go to a bank that has been spending on golf for the last 6 years and you're asking for shirt sponsorship. You must have data, as my colleague had mentioned, and the panelists. You must have that data to know who is buying what and where are they buying. So that way you know which partners. You don't make general terms of telecommunications, crypto, betting companies. You must know what are they buying. Why are they buying? How have they been buying? That will guide you and make you use less effort, but actually get actual figures. I hope I've answered you tactfully, sir.
Afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is John. I'm coming from close to what you're doing, production background. So I found myself in sports. But the biggest question I have, which kind of has been alluded to, is we need clarity in regards to most of the clubs. We are looking at grassroots because that's where you're getting your feed of your players from. Most of them do not have those budgets to be able to have that visibility, to be able to get that data of the player so that they can be on YouTube and all that. If you tell them you want to come and produce for them, you give them the cost of production, they'll be like, we can't afford this. They just want to do. So what direction would you give for that? Because remember, we're in Africa. Let's move away from the European standards. Most of the African local teams will not be able to afford the production costs. What we're having back here, if you gave a team to be able to have that kind of budget that's back here, most of them will say it's too rich for them. They just want to get the game played. How do you change that mindset to be able to grow them, to be able, one, to get that data that he was talking about of the games played, the scores and all those, and moving forward?
Can I go ahead? I think it is the fault of the federations and associations because there's certain budgets, there's certain funds that are coming from FIFA and CAF to develop football and to encourage coaches' education and so many stuffs. I think, look at Brazil. Majority of their players are not from the cities. They are from the villages. They were able to bring in Marcelo They were able to bring Rivado. The same thing, look at Jeji Okocha, he was in Enugu. A lot of them like that. See, we need to decentralize our football and make it a regional football and see how we can bring in competent hands to run our football. It doesn't cost much to get data. Highball, the first phase of Highball is for free. Highball is trying to penetrate Africa. They are looking for the market in Africa. Now, the representative of Highball, Bayero, it was before Jordan. These guys are going from one federation to the other to see how they can have partnership with clubs and academy. And also, there's certain money that is meant for grassroots clubs, training compensation and solidarity contributions. All these monies are not going directly to these clubs. These monies are meant for them to restructure their club, to professionalize the grassroots teams, so that they can be able to perform effectively. But all these monies are not going directly to them. Even the administrators that are managing our football doesn't want the grassroots team to be exposed to the opportunities and the things in football. They just want to give them stipends so that they just take players from them. See, we need to sit down and see how we can have the same common sense. The aim is to develop African football. The aim is to build infrastructure. The aim is to empower a lot of people, to raise breadwinners from football. Impact is more successful than you getting revenues and money. Rwanda today, we are here gathering here today for this opportunity. Some people fought for the liberation of Rwanda. They gave us this platform where we are. We should be able to create a lot of platform for others to grow. Federations and associations need to do more. Regionally, attach a performance analyst, a data analyst to every region to see how they can help them to collate data and information.
Thank you so much.
Just one addition. One addition. This is a very good answer for that gentleman. I want us to also consider one thing. As we mentioned, commercialization is an exchange, right? So in issues of absence of budget, okay, you can opt to go for a value for value approach, right? You could find a production house that is trying to brand itself as the key highlights partner of your club. They can give you those clips in exchange for being your shirt sponsor. You're not spending, they have the equipment. Value for value, right? Exchange. It's the exchange, value for money. There has to be an exchange.
Madam, I want to add the same here. This AI company that is coming to sign with Younger, initially they wanted to sell AI for Younger. Okay. Actually, the chairman of Firewood Club in Holland is the one running the company. And I said to him, my friend, me, I don't have money to buy AI, but I have a platform where you can create your AI for Africa and you can be able to sell. So in exchange to giving him a platform where he can generate his AI customized for African, I get the service. So it's exchange, my brother.
I'm sure we are all very, very happy about this discussion, but can I please ask that we ask our panelists, like when we are done with this panel discussion, we ask the questions outside after when we're doing networking because we are running out of time. But I know it's an exciting conversation and thank you so, so much.